Good afternoon. This is Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. Having a quorum, I'm going to start the meeting off by reading our Zoom announcement. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 3818, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Southborough Open Space Preservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at www.southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner: by finding the meeting at www.southboroughtown.com remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So it's 12:06 and I'm calling the meeting to order. And the first item on our agenda is the minutes. Karen, can you put them up? Is that possible?
Sure, yeah, no problem. All right.
I know you sent them out. I looked at them, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't get a thorough review.
Make sure it's here. So this is from the meeting of July 6th. I believe you should be able to see them on the screen now.
Yeah, okay, just leave it there. So present. Okay, all agreed under minutes. It's something in front of approved.
I approved. What does that mean? What did I mean by that?
All
all agreed by role play. I should just get rid of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's redundant.
Okay.
So this was the meeting where we voted on the signature authorization.
Yep. I have a follow-up on that. I still have to get Sarah's signature. I'll do that next week. Next line, can you scroll up a little?
You came by my house.
Well, take that out of the record. No, I forgot.
It's
okay.
such a memorable meeting.
I can sign it again.
No. I have to drop it. My to-do list is I have to drop it at the accountant's office. So thank you for reminding me. I was more interested in the plants that day, I believe. All right. So can you scroll up a little bit so that this next section is, yeah, that's good. Just there. Okay. So wait a second. Can you just take CPA application out of that, because you discuss it later and that doesn't really make any sense. Thank you. Oh,
this is interesting.
What?
I just got a 40-minute time limit thing.
Did you get that? Excuse me.
So when we were sent this Zoom link,
yep,
it's based on the town account, because we shouldn't get this 40-minute time limit.
Why did you get that?
I don't know. It could be from another Zoom call I was on, but just for some reason after 40 minutes we're disconnected. That's why.
Okay,
yeah, I don't see anything on my screen.
It must be a meeting of yours.
I spent all day on Zoom, so okay, good.
Okay. All right, golf course. CPA, it's not CPA, OSPC has a CPA project.
So OSPC has a
CPA
CPA
funded
funded.
project. And I believe that had been started that week, right? Had already been started at that meeting,
Right.
the
Yeah.
Tree of Heaven. So we're in year 2. The Tree of Heaven has been treated for year 2. You might say we're in year 2. That's what I went over. So we are currently, you can put it at the end. Whatever, right there's fine. In year 2 of a 3-year plan. Comma, Tree of Heaven has been treated. After the plan. Sorry, this is hard for you. Tree of Heaven, right there, Tree of Heaven has been treated and needs follow-up removal when it's dead. Yep. Japanese knotweed will be done later this season. Period, and then you can erase the rest. Yep, great. Thank you. That's a better
That's great.
description of what I went over.
Yeah.
If I didn't talk about Breakneck Hill, take that out just because it was in the agenda. If we didn't discuss it, take it out, please. The next one, didn't we discuss that, or I mentioned that we're waiting till the fall to see how the soil treatment is going forward. We already discussed that we put down the cardboard and the wood chips. Okay. All right. Does anyone would like to make a motion to approve these? Does anyone else have any edits? No. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve them as amended?
This is Karen, and I can make an emotion to approve the minutes of July 6, 2021, as amended.
Is there a second?
I will second that.
And before we approve, go back to signature authorization. I just want to make sure this has exactly what we needed to have it to say. For fiscal year 2021 was reaffirmed as our authorized signature. Okay, that looks great. So, yeah, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Karen Spikovich in favor.
Sarah Rossitano in favor.
Freddie Gillespie in favor. It passes. We can move on to our next agenda item. Take that down, Karen, please. And
There we go. Okay.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Oh crap, I just clicked yes on update my recovery. I hope my computer doesn't start doing something weird.
Do some weird stuff.
Oh God. How do I stop it?
I don't know.
I might get shut out here.
That's weird because I just had that pop up too on mine.
And I was trying to delete it, and I mean, for later.
Yeah, yeah.
This may start my whole computer going off screen, guys. If it does, we're going to have to cancel the meeting. I don't know how to stop this. Does anyone?
I don't. Sorry,
Is that
Freddie.
showing up on your screen too?
No, not on mine. No. You have a Mac still though, right, Freddie?
I'm a PC, always been a PC.
Okay.
All right, maybe I can, give me a minute while I get rid of this. Update. How do I'm just going to exit out and see if that gets rid of it. Hopefully it did. My computer tells me to update stuff in the middle of me doing other things.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
very exciting. Yeah.
So the next item is the library pollination preservation garden.
Yeah.
Lot going on there. I had a very positive meeting with the library trustees yesterday. The project, as far as the collaborative project, is full steam ahead right now. However, we have some infrastructure and weather problems. So Karen, if you can bring up that report I sent to the library.
Yeah. I've got that open right now.
It's actually a PDF of I made it on PowerPoint, which is
It's just beautiful.
a new way of, I find it's a new way of, I don't know who turned me on to it, but it's a great way of
It's a great way
sending
to
information with
yeah,
pictures.
when you want to show pictures. So can you see my
Yeah.
screen?
So I gave this update to the trustees and we talked about it yesterday. So here was one of the first things. When we first started this project, I was told that the DPW would remove the sod. And it's not a process I've used before because we've always been on conservation land, which is very different meadows, soil prep. And I've heard this is something you can do. Here's a clue. Always ask what equipment they're going to be using, because in my mind, sod removal for these types of gardens has always been either by hand or a small little push behind, walk behind push machine, like a brush hog, but smaller. So when I saw the big equipment there, I was kind of surprised. And I think that is some of what, you're doing something weird there, Karen.
Oh, sorry, I didn't think you'd be able to see that. What I was just doing is saving your file and attaching it to minutes. So as you're talking,
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, so that's what we were seeing. So what happened here is you can see that the heavy equipment came in, and if you look on the picture on the right in the rear where it borders the grass on the left of that picture, there's like a 8-inch difference in the level of the regular, the pre-existing grass to where this planting area is. In addition, in the picture on the left, you can see all those rocks, which was the stone wall. A lot of that's been disturbed. So if you go to the next picture, after they left, oh, here, this shows it even better. You can see there was that difference in soil height, as well as the stone wall is pretty well dismantled. The stone wall on the left, that pile of rocks, used to come out beyond the pile, the wall on the right, and curl around, creating the upland area that we were going to be planting on, with a narrower funnel-like area. It widened at the base, but it was, funneling into the stormwater area. And that portion of the wall is gone. And that, you go down to we needed topsoil brought in. So July 8th, topsoil was laid down. But you can see in the picture on the left, Karen, do you see with your cursor, if you can show this? All right, see where the tarp is? Okay, the edge of the tarp. Now move down a little bit further, closer to the front of, right there. That's right where you were before. That's where you can sort of see the slope ends and then it flattens out. It's not completely flat, but that's the edge of the sort of a slope that makes it go uphill. That slope used to be almost to the edge of where the grass is. And now it's flat there. And what happens will be evident in the next picture. This shows the DPW did come and put the stones back mostly where they belong, but it was not what you would consider a wall now. It's what you would, in some areas, it's just a pile of rocks. There's, the original drainage always had a little bit of an uphill. The grate is at the far end, and there's a section of this channel that goes uphill. So the water has to reach a certain height before it will flow over it and drain into the drain.
Mm.
But it became worse with more rocks narrowing the channel.
Mhm.
So we do have the topsoil was brought in. We had a almost $500 bill for that we weren't planning on, but you know, it was our responsibility. Go to the next one. And I will say the DPW was generous to try to help us. Of course, once this happened, the rain started.
Oh, gosh.
And what this picture on the left doesn't completely show is, see where, because this was after it had stopped raining and was, you know, not as wet, as pond-like as it was. All that sandy area in the front went much wide. I don't have a wider picture of it here. That's all planting area, plus the puddle. So we knew the channel we were going to plant with wetland plants, but like a rain, not a quote rain garden, but rain garden type plants that can handle being wet, but not aquatic plants. This should not be standing water. If this was draining properly, it wouldn't be. But again, the uphill deal. On the picture on the right, you can see there's a puddle there in front of the drainage. There's all rocks there. And then in the bottom left corner of that picture, do you see that? Yes, that rock there. Below that is this big puddle we're seeing, and this is uphill going into there, and it's also full of a lot of the soil we paid for.
$500.
Yeah, but it's also we're you know, creating a stormwater no, which is allowing soil to run down into a storm drain. That didn't dawn on me right away because until I was like, oh, what if I dug a trench between the puddle, the ponding area, into this other area? It might flow better. And then I said, no, I'll be encouraging all the silt and sediment in that pond area to flow down the storm drain. And maybe we can, if we keep it where it is when it drains, maybe we can shovel it back up. And this picture also doesn't show the picture on the right. All around the top of the stones is soil that's leaching through and falling through the stones. It's not a solid wall. It's also this was an unprecedented amount of water we've been getting, right? So there's that. And if you had the grass and the stone wall in place, it would have filtered it better. So it was because we didn't get planted in May, which would have made a difference. May, early June. There's nothing there to hold the soil in place, plants and the stone wall. So go to the next picture. July 16th was a Friday. I'm realizing more heavy rains are forecasted. I sent an email to DPW, but it was a Friday. I didn't hear back by, no reason to expect an immediate response, I guess, on a Friday. But I was able to reach out to Melissa in conservation, and they didn't have any I think the correct term is wattle. Mike Bartolini, Melissa recommended he might have some, and he did have one left over. And not only did he bring it there, I guess it weighs like 100 pounds when it's wet. He installed it for us. Now this, so very generous effort on his part. And also it's, he said this isn't enough. We need to ask for a silt sack. I think try saying that fast. And that requires lifting up the storm drain and putting it underneath, and it will catch stuff, but it will also fill up and clog up and then need to be replaced. But that needs to be an ask to the DPW. So I don't know if there's a next picture. Is that the last picture?
And yep.
Okay. What also is interesting when I was there looking at this, see the rock on the right-hand side? Put your little cursor up right there. Over in that area, I saw these bumblebees going in and out. I took my video. It's Bombus impatiens, not a species at risk, but one we don't want there, as we're going to be, well, you'll hear, if the garden was there, we'd be happy with it being there. But I got permission from the library to be in agreement. They were actually positive about it, but we're going to get, Dr. G. Gear said he will have one of his students remove the hive and bring it to his lab where it can be part of the ongoing research he does.
Yeah, good. Okay.
The reason for this is because I can't even remember the day. One day this week, Riverside Specialties, they're a landscaping company based in Southborough. They had provided some pro bono work to us at the Ecology Research Garden, where they supplied the labor for free and we paid for the soil. It was 80 yards, I think it was 80 yards of topsoil was brought into the Ecology Research Garden. So Melissa gave me their contact info, and their vice president sent someone there to meet me, and they have agreed. Can you go back up to the picture of the, right there's good. They looked at it, they determined it would take 3 men a full day of work to rebuild those stone walls. And they are, have generously offered to do that pro bono.
Wow. That is amazing. That's amazing.
They are asking that we, and the library agreed to this. We acknowledge them in social media and tag them in that. And certainly the library has, a website, an active website and Facebook page, but we should do that on our own page and ask Vanessa when we send an announcement out about the garden. I don't think it will just be about they did this, but as part of that announcement. And I suggested to the library that it be a joint announcement between the library and the Open Space Commission, working collaboratively together, and thanking the Riverside. I just want to have my committee in agreement. I don't know that we need to take a vote. If everyone says yes, you agree.
Yeah, no, I think that's fantastic. Boy, what a generous offer, and whatever we can do to promote them and give them credit, I think we should. So
yeah,
good.
I'm not sure we're promoting them, but we're acknowledging and thanking them is the term I would use.
Yeah.
So maybe we should have a little vote that we would, as this moves forward, we agree we're very appreciative.
What is it called again? The Riverside.
Let me just make sure I have it correct. I think it's Specialties, but I'm not. If I look for his email, I can give you it exactly.
Like a landscaping company?
Yeah, they're high end. They don't really do, there are a lot of design and installation, not necessarily your typical, they're not coming around with blowers and mowers unless you're their client for another reason. Let me just get it. Riverside. Riverside Services.
Riverside Services.
And it's Brian Mandeville, Mandeville. He's the vice president.
Mande. What was the rest?
Ville.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's the vice president who put this into play. I actually met with another executive, Jason, account manager or something, but very nice to work with. And I'm waiting to find out how soon they can do it, because if this work isn't done, I did get the recommendation we could start to plants once it dries out 4 feet behind. That doesn't allow us to do the garden design. And so where we stand right now is we are waiting to hear back from Brian when they can do the work.
Okay.
So that's why we want the bumblebee hive out of there, because 2 things. Bumblebees are very docile unless you mess with their hive. So we don't want anyone getting stung, but we also, if they tear the stone wall down, they're going to destroy the hive anyhow. So I'm waiting to hear as soon as possible to have the hive removed. So that's a great benefit to us that Dr. G. Gear, another reason working with him is great, that we have someone to come take it away. And it's also going to be used for further research into his work, which is, you know, a benefit there for students in the future.
Yeah.
So the other thing that happened at the meeting, and I don't have a picture of it here, is there's another section of the property that is the lawn restoration area. I wish I had a picture of it.
If I stop sharing this now?
Yep.
Yep.
We don't need the mess to be shown. So there's the lawn restoration area is up by the cemetery
Mhm.
wall. And we agreed that could be planted. I have the students from the Marlboro AMSA, what's that? Applied Science and Mathematics
Mhm.
Academy. Does that sound right, Sarah?
Yep.
And they've been volunteering every week, and I can work with them if it's dry enough. And we can, because it's drier, it's up, it's not flooded. And it's just one plant, the plugs of prunella and maybe some small plants of strawberries that we could, it doesn't need the whole garden design done, right? I already have a design I worked with Ellen on, and it's a certain area, so it'll be easier to plant without having to put the flags in.
Mhm. Mhm.
So Sarah, I need to pick up those, if it's dry enough tomorrow morning to come by your house and pick up a flat. Is it okay if I'm rustling around your house? You're
Yeah.
going away. I won't say anything. If you're not there, I can go and pick them up anyhow.
Yeah.
And do I need to water them
I
over
don't,
the weekend?
I feel like it's rained so much that unless we had like 3 straight days of
Hot sun?
dry, yeah, they're so wet right now.
Okay. I might have someone else do it because I may myself try to get away for the weekend.
Oh, good, Freddie. That's great.
Oh God, yes. So here's where we stand. What were the other concerns with the two outstanding things with the library trustees? One was they brought up a issue about being Corey checked. And I explained, you know, we haven't talked about this, so it was my personal opinion that I didn't feel it was appropriate to require our volunteers to do something that isn't a policy. For the
Mhm.
library to institute a policy, we would follow, but if they don't have a policy, didn't seem like we should have to, you know, jump through hoops that other groups don't have to. Their concern, which I hear, is working with children. And I think what I'd like to do is maybe, because I didn't realize that before I went to the meeting. And
I knew that that was required when I used to volunteer in schools.
you're at schools is very different. The library has the Southborough gardeners working there. They don't have to be Corey checked. Keep saying
Mhm.
COVID. The point is the way we do our volunteers, we announce there's a volunteer day, people show up.
Mhm.
If we were moving forward, if we decide to have a set group that's doing it and they want to have that, you know, a regular group of people, that's more like a club. And then I think, well, then like any club of the library, and how we decided, one of the misunderstandings I think is that we were going to be working with kids, and I never envisioned this to be a children's project. All of our work on Pollinator Gardens has been adults. We didn't exclude kids in the past, but we had one volunteer who brought her 2 daughters with her during all the work days we had last year. Well, and I had two young men come. One was both of them were high school aged, actually, that I know from church. I don't know that that makes a difference. So the concern is moving forward, the library can, what we left it at is the library will look at their, creating a policy in the future that we will not be working with children under 18, except for I can continue to work with the AMSA volunteers I've been working with all summer, as long as we're not including them in a big group activity with a lot of adults. So like Sarah and Karen and Beth can come, and we'll just keep track of who's there, but usually it's just me with the students. They're coming tomorrow, and if we can plant, we're going to start to plant. So what the library trustees made clear is they weren't trying to be obstructive, but they just, they might have envisioned we were going to have work days mixed with adults and children. And I'd like to be clear, maybe we should send them a notice that right now we're not, the volunteer days will have no one under 18.
I just made a note of that in the minutes as well.
Yeah. So I think that satisfies that. And, if we lose a few volunteers because of that, oh, well, I know a few people who aren't used to working with the schools and getting Corey checked I asked a few people what they thought about being Corey checked to volunteer, and they were taken aback. It felt like an maybe not understanding exactly, but an invasion of privacy. I've never heard of it in any of the volunteer groups I've worked with. So maybe it's the way we're going in the future. And because it's the library, it's different. But so for right now, we're good to go.
Good. Wow. So impressed pictures that you did, Freddie. I think that's a really great document in terms of documenting the process.
Yeah, thank you. Sarah, the other thing, Ryan sent out some revisions to this all came up when we did outreach for volunteers. And supposedly he changed, stating that the volunteers are over 18 only. So do you want to take a look at that today, can you? And then say it's good to go?
Yep.
Make sure it doesn't have anything different than what you had sent besides that, unless it's a typo or something like that. But content, it should be what you sent, just with the provision that it's over 18. So one of the things with the volunteers, we can't say, oh, come to a work day. What we're saying is sign up to be notified of a work day, because it is so wet there. Heaven knows when we're going to be able to plant. The other thing we need, Sarah, can you send an email out to Jane? I don't know when the grant, when the grant is done. Ryan in the past, I think, told me September, but then he said he wanted stuff done by the end of July so that you could write the reports up. So we need to know what needs to be in the reports and when they need to be submitted by, because it's not our fault we can't plant because it's underwater. And where it's not underwater, when you step on it, you sink, you sink through above your high top sneakers in the mud. So.
Okay, so what would need to be included in it in the deadline?
Yeah. When's the deadline for the work to be done, and when do the reports need to be in? Because we're certainly not, I think he told me he wanted the work done by the end of July, and that's not happening. I need to, so the first thing is we have to get the stone wall built, and then the soil needs to dry out enough to plant. And this also changed the whole planting scheme, because a lot of the area, if I already said this, excuse me, but it means the design has to be changed, that all of anything that we have to add more wet tolerant plants for that whole section. We thought there was an area we were going to do that's tripled in size now. And even if they come back with the stone wall and get it up higher, the reality is, and we didn't know this before all this rain, and this may be a once in 100-year event, or it could be the new reality with climate change, that we're going to get a lot of rain at times. And I've heard it's going to be, you know, high heat, drought, and a lot of rain, you know, back and forth. So we want to have something that can withstand either situation. So I'm going to be talking with Ellen Sousa about that a little bit more. The other, sorry, I'm talking so much. The other thing is we need a vote to approve. We already approved applying for a CPA grant. To fill out the CPA grant to add more shrubs, you know, we're not going to plant shrubs and trees with volunteers. It's going to have people having to plant them. It's going to require, I'd like to look a little bit more at the drainage, you know, the whole woodland area, clearing that out and planting with ephemerals and woodland plants would be, you know, that would be an added benefit to the wooded area. But the other sections of the property, we talked about getting some red bud trees and some of the other shrubs on Rob's list to fill out particularly the pollen requirements for the at-risk species. And to do so, to put a grant together, you'd have to go and find out what it would cost to clear out the land, what it would cost to remove the invasives, what it would cost to buy the plants, what it would cost to plant the plants, shrubs and trees, and how to mitigate some of the wetland issues. That's a lot of research. And because I know this, Trevor, who gave us some pro bono work looking at the site before and said we could plant in the drainage swale or whatever we want to call it. Let's come up with a name for it that's attractive. He now is, you know, he's a plant designer expert, plus he's a stormwater expert. He teaches DPWs on how to manage stormwater in certificate programs. So I reached out to him and he said, you know, I think it might be 2 visits, $200 a visit to take a look at the area and give us some recommendations that we can use to plug into the grant application. CPC is meeting tonight. I put a tentative. I need your vote to approve this, that we're going to request $400 for an assessment to help us write the grant. So CPA has admin monies that you can use to get surveys and things like that to help you with a project. That's exactly what this is. It's $400. I hope they will approve it tonight, if you agree to my asking.
Well, should we make a motion about that, Freddie?
Yeah, the motion is to approve requesting $400 for a consultant to provide information on cost to plant and address water drainage issues in the pollination preservation garden for a CPA application.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion for us to approve the request of $400 for a consultant to provide information on the cost to plant and address water drainage issues in the pollinator garden for CPA application.
Can you add at the library after pollinator garden?
At the library. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and can you add the correct name? It's a pollination preservation garden. Is that the motion? You don't have to say it again, but.
Yes, it is. That's the motion.
Okay.
Corrected in the notes. Yep.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor, Sarah?
Sarah Rossitano in favor.
Karen?
Karen Svikovich in favor.
Freddie Gillespie in favor. That passes unanimously. And then the other thing we just have to address, Sarah, is getting the water hoses, and I also need the flags. As much as it seems crazy that we need water hoses, it's not always going to be downpouring. And when you plant, even after rain, you have to water them in so that you fill up the air bubbles in the soil. Is that something else we can take, we can figure that out, but I'm just making a note that that still needs to be done.
Yep.
And then that's everything I have. Do you have anything on the else on the garden, Sarah?
I don't think so at this time.
Okay.
The plants are still doing well and starting to some of them are past flowering and some of them are flowering currently and about to. So we'd love to get them in the ground.
Yeah, so would I. Yours are doing better than the ones at Breakneck, which were smaller and required more watering and in full sun. I'd like to thank Beth, who has been going out there and making sure they were first during that heat, making sure they were watered, and then worried about, because it's full sun. So she was going out and putting up umbrellas in the morning.
Oh, how kind.
And then she would take them down at night because you couldn't leave them like with wind to, take out the plants if they blew over. And then going back and putting the umbrellas up. And now it's a matter of making sure they're not standing in water and drowning. So it's been a real great, we owe her some big thanks, I would say.
Mhm.
So there's that. And I guess, Sarah, if there's any seeds being formed, can you collect them of the ones that have already flowered?
I was looking at them. I'm not sure. I don't know that plant, so.
Was it the penstemon? It was a white
think
flowering
so.
plant
Mm-hmm.
with little tubular flowers. Yeah, those will have little round, hard seeds, and then they're pretty easy to collect afterwards. But
Yeah, I just don't know at what point they.
yeah, that's not
be
one you
too
have to
early.
worry about, because you'll know when you know, right? Some plants, when they go to seed, all of a sudden they explode and they, blow, they
Mhm.
expel what's the word? Their seeds go flying in all directions. It's a
Mhm.
way of getting them out there, dispersing them, and you got to get those before they do that. But the penstemon doesn't have that issue.
Mhm.
All right, so that's great. What's the next agenda item? That was the main thing on our agenda, guys. The next agenda items, I did want to talk. Let me put this down and look at my agenda.
The master plan.
Yeah, master plan. Not Sarah, this is Karen. In your recommendations, and excuse me if I've asked this before, but somebody in another town mentioned this, that their town actually had a recommendation, and she's on the implementation. They've set up an implementation committee. I don't know that our town is or not, but that's how it came up, and she's working on making this happen. One of their recommendations was that all town-owned land had native plants on it.
Mhm. That's one of ours as well.
It is a recommendation.
Mhm.
Can you, before you finalize it, is there any way you have access to what the actual recommendation is we could look at, or is that too much to ask?
That's not too much to ask. So where we are right now is we now have, it's pretty exciting, the updated charts, which I now need to copy and paste into the document. And then Judith and me are going through and editing all of the chapters. Let's see. I'm just pulling it up now. This is the unformatted, messy version. But let me see if I can find where it says here and I can read it to you.
Because one of the things we know is that there's going to be lawn, right? And lawn is acceptable where it's needed. you know, playing fields and picnicking areas and where children and dogs play. However, it's not needed on the wide scale, massive mowed lawn areas we have in places. Some of it can be changed. And also, there's misses done all the time, like even at the golf course, they put in trees that weren't native. I don't know how that happened. I see an area planted in front of the library. It's a new little island. How that got planted with non-native plants in this time, I have no idea. Some of them maybe, there's roses and grasses. I don't know. I never heard about a plan for that. It might have been part of the Main Street reconstruction.
Maybe. Oops. That's not what I wanted to share. Stop sharing. All right, let me show you what the wording is right now. Can you see it now?
Yep. Okay.
So this, what it says right now is expand the use of native plants and pollinators across the community.
Yeah, that's not enough.
And then here's the recommendations related to it. Work with town facilities and departments to create and manage a plan for all town-owned properties to be landscaped with native plants versus non-natives or cultivars. Develop a policy and associated guideline conditions outlining the recommended native planting schemes that can be adopted by the Planning Board and Conservation Commission, and pursue certification as a wild habitat community through the National Wildlife Federation.
Okay, so number 5, 0, 5, 1, and 5, 2.
So how
5,
this
0, expand the use across the community.
So how this document works is 5.0 is the goal, the big picture goal. And then 5.1, 5.2, and 5.3 are the specific recommendations as it links to the goal. So the goal is not supposed to be very detailed. The details are supposed to be in the recommendations.
So I would just say that the goal doesn't quite read right. Could you expand the use of native plants? We're not expanding the use of pollinators across the community. So maybe the N should be for pollinators.
Okay.
I don't know if you have to go back to your committee, I imagine, to accept your edits, but you might want to highlight that so they know it. Yeah. Work with town facilities and departments. So the recommendation to create and manage a plan for all town-owned properties to be landscaped with native plants versus non-native.
It reflects our previous edits. So in our previous meetings, when we've gone through this, we already went through and wordsmithed it. So we can make additions to it, but it's getting later and later to do that.
I know. What the issue is, as you know, more towns are jumping on this and I get information from what other towns are accomplishing, it makes sense to consider that. So
Right.
that says work with town facilities and departments, which is great, but maybe between so there's 5.1 and 5.2. I think there's a create a town bylaw that requires native plants on all town-owned property. Somerville just passed that. What's Deb in Groton, I think the town is, she's working on it. I can get the specific language, but it's not about specific language, but we want this to be a requirement. So it's not whenever it's a feel good or if you want to, or.
All right, let me see what I know that Mimi and Judith would be supportive of that, but it wasn't in it. I'm trying to think. It was in, right now you're seeing all the goals because I just wanted to scan it because I could have sworn we had something like that. Stormwater.
Do you have one? Is there one banning balloons?
We talked about that, and that certainly came out in
I just read about a horse that got some balloons, strings attached, stuck on him. And then it's, the Mylar balloon, it spooked him. And the poor horse ran and then got caught in barbed wire and then was freaking out because the balloons were still chasing him, and
this is what's in there currently.
yeah, that's great. That's educating the dangers. I think, what I would recommend is that there's a bylaw that prohibits balloons on any town-owned property for any events. One of the big things is for whatever reason, it's become traditional, like rice at a wedding, balloons at a burial. Why are people releasing hundreds of balloons when somebody gets buried?
Yeah.
And I just had a lot of Mylar balloons in a tree at Breakneck Hill. So these escaped from someone's party, right?
Right.
What if there's a bird nesting there and she gets freaked out and can't go back to her babies?
Yeah.
It's not a...
So I can definitely talk to them about that. It's just hard because anything that says prohibit or make it absolutely require a requirement
Right.
takes a bit more discussion.
Right.
Because the education of it and the suggestion of it,
Right.
people are more flexible about. But
yeah, and we can educate and discuss all we want, and meanwhile the balloons fly and the native plants don't get planted. So that's why I was just suggesting that.
Yeah.
And I understand you're one member of a committee, but I think it's valuable to add it in.
Yeah. So let me see in terms of that, and then this gives you a sense of the structure. So right now this is still messy and needs to be edited, but this is the introduction. And this introduction reflects what you have seen in the past, and really focusing in on what we are focused on as a Open Space Preservation Commission. So this is reflective of what you and I did together in terms of some of the biggest accomplishments. Ready? These are
I'm sorry, I just don't have time to get pictures.
These are the main organizations that are related to it, because this isn't just about us, it's about other organizations.
Wait, when you're swimming, you just scroll by. Did you have stewardship committee in there?
Let's see. So Open Space, you're first. SVT is second. Self.
So go back up. Slow. Solve. Okay. Sudbury watershed swamp is no longer in effect. So that needs to be noted, or just take it out. Let them know. We did great work back in the day, but we're not in so you have the trails committee,
Yeah.
but I don't see the stewardship committee.
Okay.
Oh, it's not Breakneck. Melissa, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you know offhand the name of it? Is it just the stewardship committee?
I believe so.
Yeah, take Breakneck Hill out of it. So we work on town forest as well. So you want to take Breakneck Hill out of that second one. It says Breakneck Hill Stewardship Committee in pink.
Okay.
And you can leave the rest.
Yeah.
We do maintain the Breakneck Hill.
This is rec. They didn't do little descriptions like we did. These
They did or didn't?
Did not. See, they just listed their organizations.
Okay.
This was our major accomplishments.
Yeah.
Based on what we chatted about.
Yeah. A ton of work went into this. I really get.
And then this is Recreation Department's major accomplishment.
Just because when this goes in, you may want to talk about the library. We're in the middle of, we're creating a, it's in process now, but it's a big deal.
Very big deal.
So what that's called is a pollination preservation garden. I want to make sure we get the name right. And it's a public display.
And how would you like to describe it?
At the library. So their public display garden to educate people and on the value of, I don't think we want to. Maybe I can send you a link can I send you the link that we've already written and put out before?
Yeah, and I'll insert it.
Instead and that we would want to have at the library.
Yep.
Have 3 bullet points, and we can write the different stages: at the library, at the golf course, and at Beals Preserve. We are partnering in all 3 of those.
Yeah, if you want to send me a blurb on that, I know I can add that.
Okay, so
whether or not I can require no balloons in the whole town, that takes a little more discussion, but adding something that is a new accomplishment, that for sure.
Yeah, it's just like, so at the library, can you put the 3 bullet points? Library, golf course. And Beals Preserve, Southborough Open Land Foundation. So we're partnering on all 3 of those. I think it's worth putting in there. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Great. So those are the
I guess I understand why saying you can't do something. Do you have any recommendations that say you want to make something happen, or is it all just?
Oh, no, we do. But the problem is all those recommendations have already been vetted by everybody on the committee. And now we're at the stage where we're just editing the final copy. So
Yeah,
we have to talk about it. I can't just put it in and then have nobody look at it.
No, I understand that, but
yeah. But for sure, we have lots of recommendations that are very specific even. See, these are the charts that are all being, they've just been updated, so I need to insert them now.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the pictures that we have already. But everything is, all of the goals are formatted in the same way for all the chapters. So there's always a big picture goal and then the smaller recommendations. So with some of these are some very specific things like continue to establish connection to regional trails or establish ADA compliant trails and parking.
So what if instead of saying prohibit balloons, right?
Yeah.
Say create a committee to investigate a bylaw for prohibiting balloons.
I think that would be more easy to pass through at this stage.
And the same thing, create a committee, or no.
The possibility of a bylaw.
We don't need to keep making it to explore a town. Explore is enough. You don't need to want to,
Great.
dilute it more with a possibility.
Yeah.
To explore town native plants, and the same thing, create committee or task force or or charge a committee to explore, create or charge standing committee. It doesn't have to be a new committee.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you put that in there. And the other one was the balloons.
Right. I added the balloons to this one, but I may need to put it up there in the other place because balloons aren't necessarily linked to the expanding use of.
Yeah, it's not, but it's linked to conservation values. Great. Thank you. those were the two. When I heard somebody was working on it based on, it was a recommendation in their master plan,
Yeah.
it gave them the authority to actually work on it. It did make sense to try to revisit this, and I appreciate that you are willing to bring it back to the committee.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just
And
gonna-
understand there's no guarantee they'll make it into the final cut. What was the other agenda items? Was there anything else on the master plan? I think I had asked for this. Where are we? And I think you have you have to leave at a certain time, Karen.
1:30, so I'm still.
Oh, where
We
are we?
need to explore the, explore prohibited blooms.
What?
I'm just trying to figure out the wording here.
Oh, the other two items on our agenda. So South Union School. Were you done with the master plan, Karen?
Yep, I'm done.
South Union School was got pulled from the annual town meeting. They were going to dispose of it and sell it to a developer. Now they're looking at converting it to affordable housing. I personally think that's a great idea, except for I don't think we already voted not to approve going to a developer. We didn't support that, the whole property, because there's two areas. One, there's a playground. I don't know how formal we looked into it. We voted in general not to support, and I think we need to take a formal position now. First of all, there's the tot lot, and they say, oh, it will be removed and placed somewhere else. Well, it needs to be somewhere else in that neighborhood, in my opinion. You know, it's a more densely built neighborhood, and with you're aware there's a requirement for 15 units per acre zoning within a half mile of the T station. In my mind, knowing that's coming, it is ludicrous to reduce any of the open space or parks in that area of town. I don't know if you agree with me, but
I agree.
we're going to increase density at the same time you're taking away open space that's existing and a playground. Supposedly they're going to keep the playground there, but I would say somewhere in that neighborhood. Where? The first thing I had heard is somebody wanted to move it to over on the soccer fields on Liberty and Constitution Drive area. There's a soccer field there. If somebody wants to put a playground over there, you know, I'm not opposed or in favor of it. You know, I don't know enough about it, but it's not one that you take from a very densely built up neighborhood that's going to be more densely built up and move it to a less developed section of town or densely developed. So for that reason, I would suggest that we say before they remove that, you know, dispose of the property, that they have to have a plan in place where that's going in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
Would be a recommendation I would recommend. The other one is, have you visited that property lately? We used to meet there, but we always went up in the parking lot. But can you picture did you ever go over to St. Matthew's, the church, and look across the street?
Years and years ago, because that's where.
Okay. What I'm going to recommend is we put this on our next agenda and everyone go take a visit, and then we'll have some pictures. You need to see, first of all, when you talk about open space, the value of a parcel is, there are many reasons you protect open space. One of them being wildlife habitat, which is something we've certainly focused on with our native pollinator initiative. Others are that some smaller portions of open space can have a bigger impact on the feel and the sense of well-being that the people in that area feel by having that parcel there. viewscapes are really important. So that there's a green area in front of the stairs that lead up to the South Union School. That creates a historic landscape. The view from not only Highland Street looking up at the building, which creates the whole meaning of the historical setting of that building. It also allows, if you're down on Southville Road, not during leafed out season, because when the trees are in leaf, you don't see it, but you can look up and see the historic landscape of that building. And it's something to be aware of, but it's only because of that green open area, which also creates a green area for that neighborhood. And picture, if you go look at it, picture a condo building going in instead. One, you're going to lose the view to the historic building. Two, you're going to lose the open space feeling of that area. And knowing that that section of town is slated to be more densely built out, whether it happens or not, there's a requirement to have that zoning if you want any state funding. So you're kind of got your arm twisted. I don't imagine that we're not. And I believe that the plan is, what is disappointing is that they're meeting to talk about it without asking input of the Open Space Commission on a parcel of land that's going to be disposing. So that park may not be a designated park. We need to find that out. It may not be classified as open space, but it's town-owned land that's used as an open space setting and has open space value. So I think we need to look at it and all be aware of what value we think it has, and then be able to express that to the selectmen as they move forward with this plan. I think we should have been included on the committee that's looking at disposing the land. Like, who decided it's going to affordable housing? Not that I don't, and actually I think it's a great plan, right? We need affordable housing. It could work. But you have a parcel of land that has open space, recreation value, historical, and none of them are invited to the table on what we're doing with the property. Makes no sense at all. Oh, you can't get anything done with too many people discussing it. Well, I'm going to tell you, you don't get anything done if people aren't in agreement when you go to town meeting on a vote that needs 2/3. So I don't know if you have opinion. Karen.
Yeah, no, I think we've discussed this already, that I think all of us were in agreement that that playground is really important. It's also the only public playground in that area that's not attached to a school. So
I'm talking about the green area, open space as well.
yeah, and the green area in addition. So
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know that we came up with a formal statement to the selectmen. I mean, we didn't. We talked about it, and maybe I'm rehashing what we've already discussed. I apologize. It just, to me, it's ludicrous that they're talking about, disposing of it again, and what, they're going to have a plan in place and ask us what we think. And after they've already decided what they want to do. I hate being the Open Space Commission that comes out against an affordable housing project. Whereas if we were at the table at the beginning, we could be supportive.
Right. But where you put that historical housing project and how it impacts the surrounding areas is something to be discussed. That doesn't mean we're against affordable housing, because we certainly are.
We're not, but I hate to be against an affordable housing project because they didn't thoroughly vet what the other attributes of the property are.
Right.
And what I had suggested is, if it's going to be densely built out, they're going to need some septic, and maybe you could put the septic under the lawn. I mean, I have no idea, but who's considering that if we're not at the table? So that is a disappointment. And the next thing on the agenda, so before I leave that, can we all agree to go by and go to St. Matthew's? Get my saints mixed up. St. Matthew's, and look up and see, even park and walk on the land and look at the stairwell and look at the building and think how that would be different if there was a tall condo there.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not planning that, but how do we know?
Yeah, I can do that in the next couple of days. As you might remember, I leave Saturday night for Vermont, and I won't be back in Southborough till August 23rd.
All right, so you will be available for a Zoom meeting, even if it's not ideal, if we have to have one in August,
So I won't be available the first 2 weeks. So
right?
July
Understand?
26th to August 9th. But after August 9th, I'll still be in Vermont, but I can join a Zoom meeting.
You have connectivity?
Yes, I'm told I do. I don't know. I'm not in the house yet, but they said I would.
Can you send an email letting us know your dates?
Sure. Yeah.
And if you could go by and take a look? 'Cause
Yeah,
this
I'll plan on going by before I leave for vacation so that I can make a statement about it.
Okay, and fall town meeting has been moved to November, and this is about the downtown zoning bylaw, but I'm not, I won't be surprised if they're planning on adding the South Union
That
School.
date, Candy, the November date?
I think it's like, no, I don't. Mark Purple sent an email. I thought I forwarded it.
I'll look back at his emails. Yep.
I think it's the 1st,
Mm.
but I don't know.
Okay.
So that's the end of the South Union discussion. Downtown zoning bylaw. I wasn't able to attend the planning board had their first hearing on the version that was approved by the selectmen and the EDC to go to the fall town meeting. But I wasn't able to attend, but someone reported to me that there's a indication that the EDC has 6 more changes to it. So I was going to recommend we review it and go through it. And I think we should do that with the one we have. At least won't have as much if we start from scratch. But remember in the past, we said we weren't going to keep reviewing it when they kept making changes.
Remember that, yeah.
You know, and if there's one change that comes out of the hearings, that's one thing. But when they go into the hearing saying that there's 6 more changes coming, to me, that's a little bit wonky to expect anyone to be able to provide input, because it's not our job to keep reviewing this zoning bylaw. And I won't tell you how many times we've done it in meetings and then additionally at home. So if I get your permission, I will send out, the last bylaw for our review. We're only commenting on the ones that have to do with open space. And also I will send out again, we wrote up all our comments and supplied them to the selectmen. Was it a year ago?
I have to go back and look at the minutes, but that sounds about right.
I think it was like in January or something a year ago.
Yeah.
And we never heard back from the selectmen or the EDC. We got some, no, not going to do anything about it comments from the consultant.
Yeah, the consultant was kind of like, yeah, if this is what people want, but it seems to me like there's no clarity in a decision-making process in place around how.
Who's in charge?
Yeah, like, the consultant says, well, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Well, we were telling them what to do, but they don't know if they listen to us? Should they listen to others?
Well, what needed to happen there is the EDC need to read our comments and get back to us and the selectmen and tell us, have a conversation, but that's never happened. So what I think we need to see, I believe I've heard that some of our concerns were addressed, not necessarily because of our comments, but maybe because of them. Who knows? Who would know? Because no one's talked to us. But maybe they have been, so we could go through and then see if there's new ones that have come up and take out the old ones. But I have a feeling that almost all of our original concerns are still there. And certainly with the issue on heat, it's becoming more of an issue with the.
Yeah, and one of the comments that I remember that we put in there had to do with tree canopy and the planting of trees based on climate change. And you had put that in, if I remember correctly, Freddie. And I've been hearing that more and more in the news, as the West Coast bakes in this heat, realizing that tree canopy is so important.
You know what else tree canopies do? The tree roots, they go with the tree roots, and a lot of that and planting helps absorb stormwater and less impervious surface. I've seen nothing there. So one of the things about climate change is not just the heat sinks that these buildings will cause, it's the new infrastructure that cause more stormwater. And that section of town already has a huge stormwater problem.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're gonna, I mean, we're seeing what we're dealing with at the library, and that's not paved. And it's, we, it's flooding on top of lawn.
Yeah.
And that's got, because it has a high water table. I hear downtown does too. What does that have to do with open space? Well, I think open space can help alleviate these problems. And other towns are, again and again, I'm hearing they're going for money to fix their zoning requirements to create more trees and green space. So why are we creating a zoning bylaw that other towns are spending money to change away from what we're, like it's
Very valid. Very valid.
not
from my
forward
perspective.
thinking at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any ideas there, Sarah? Besides you agree or don't agree?
I agree. I see tons of posts about people looking for basement waterproofing, and it's not a problem that's just temporarily. It's
Right.
starting to affect everybody. I mean, I think it's important to start talking about more.
I wonder if there's any info in the what's the name of the plan for resiliency? Are you still there, Beth? I'm going to call you Beth, sorry. Melissa, are you still here? I know you are somewhere.
Yes, I'm here.
Does the town's resiliency plan, is that the name of it?
We have the MVP designation. We have a
Municipal vulnerability
yeah.
plan? So that plan, does it talk about zoning at all?
So it's not an actual plan. It's just the recommendations that came out of the workshop.
Okay. So I can find that on the town's website?
Yeah, that's on the Concom page.
Okay. Do you recall, is it worth my time looking at it? Does it address any of these types of issues about having more trees or green spaces?
I mean, we
Heat
talked
sinks?
about the matrices in terms of continuously trying to oh my gosh, I'm blanking today. I'm so sorry. To get open space, but it really just outlines kind of what was just discussed as the higher priority item. So it doesn't make necessarily an action item list.
Okay, so it would just be a discussion item.
Yeah. And it's those things are outlined, but we would then put into motion to work towards, but it's not specific action. So we would submit for action grants based on our priority list that came out of that meeting. But again, it's kind of our determination to make those actions.
Okay. And while we're talking about that, because it's related to the downtown, is there any place we can find what the application for the impervious surface study was, or what that's all about? Because it sounds like it's in line with this.
Yeah, I can definitely send you kind of the packet that I send in.
Okay, that'd be great to see, because I wasn't even, is it about, requiring impervious surface? I mean,
No, so it's more going to be looking at, so if we do receive it, we would get a contractor to look at aerial images, most recent aerial images, and calculate the impervious surfaces on each parcel in town. And then that way, from the Concom side, that can help us determine how much is going to the reservoir wetlands, and it might incentivize kind of in the future for people to reduce their impervious footprint.
okay, great. I'd appreciate that package, and I can share it with my commissioners.
Sure.
Great.
And Did you get a copy? Have you seen the feasibility study for the wastewater treatment there yet?
I have not.
Okay, hopefully that will be public soon. Maybe that doesn't have to do with open space, I'm not sure. It has to do with the downtown, but maybe that's outside of our ballpark. So I guess the thing is, we're going to look at the new downtown bylaw, and maybe I'll send an email asking when they expect to have the final changes in so that we're not constantly reviewing. I think that would be helpful. And then these other ones I just put in as a the Native Pollinator Native Plant Initiative. The golf course I did talk about when we were fixing the minutes. It was from last time. For the Halloran open space after our last meeting, Sam did send out a revised to me and Melissa that a notice that he's going to be sending to the DOT. Melissa, do you know if he already sent that, or do I need to follow up, do you think?
I don't know for certain. My understanding was from his email that he was going to shortly. So I would definitely confirm, but I believe so.
Okay, so that should be in play. Our point was we wanted it to get there while they're still, creating great traffic delays on that, inconvenience to the residents with the bridge repair. And I think the Pollination Preservation Garden, we're still just waiting, and Breakneck Hill, I don't think there's anything new there for us. So I don't have any other updates on the Native Pollinator Native Plant Initiative. Does anyone else?
I do not.
And
I
then,
don't.
okay, so is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'd like to thank Melissa for hosting us. Thank you, Melissa.
Yes, thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, you're great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 1:26, 4 minutes early. Thank you, Freddie.
I'll second that.
So can you be sure that a thank you to Mike Bartolini is in the minutes under the library project for the storm? Is it a wattle? Is that the correct term, Melissa?
Yep.
Okay,
Straw
the storm
Straw
water.
Straw.
Sorry,
No, it's
straw
okay.
wattle.
Straw wattle, yeah.
A straw wattle. And Karen, make sure the minutes reflect that we thanked
Storm
Melissa.
Waddle, Wadel.
I put
T.
it with T's.
Yep, TT. So not waddle like a duck, but waddle with the T.
And how do we spell Bartolini? Bartolini, is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if it's Mike or Michael. What do you use, Melissa?
Either one.
Okay, and then at the end, say we thanked Melissa for hosting us. I would like that in our
Thank you.
minutes. Because we
Okay.
couldn't have met without her. And we may need to train one of us to do it in case she can't, but we have to supply our own from now on. It's given just the three of us, it's much better to have Melissa, but I know we're not always going to be able to depend on her. Or I may not reach her in time to post the meeting quickly. So Karen, I don't know if that's something you'd be willing to take on too. If it's just, I think Zoom, it's letting the people in.
I can help when I'm able to attend, but as I mentioned to you, my availability to attend these meetings is going to decrease sadly in September. So that's why we really need to have another person. So
Why
I
don't we
wouldn't
put that on our next agenda?
Wouldn't be able to do it all the time because
You're not going to be here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So there's a motion. Did I have a second?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
I
Sarah
seconded.
did it. Yeah.
Okay. All in favor?
Karen Zikovich in favor.
Sarah?
Sarah Asatano in favor.
Freddie Gillespie in favor. And 1 minute to spare. The meeting's